If you're wanting to capture smooth, cinematic, slow-mo footage of horses, 120 frames per second is where it's at. But let's be real, if your settings are off, you can end up with dark, grainy, or just flat out not good footage. So let's break down how to set up your shutter speed, ISO, and aperture for the best looking results. Alright, up first is shutter speed. The golden rule for filming in 120 frames is setting your shutter speed at double the amount of your frame rate. So in this case, 120 frames, you would want your shutter speed at 1/240 minimum. If your shutter speed is too slow, your footage can end up coming out not as crisp. It'll look a little messy or blurry. Having it at 1/240 minimum is going to ensure that you're going to have the best results. Now that we're using a higher shutter speed, our camera is letting in less light. So that means we have to adjust our ISO to compensate. Now here's the catch. Raising our ISO too much will cause our footage to get grainy, and that is not what we want. A good rule of thumb is to keep your ISO as low as possible while exposing properly. If you're shooting outside on a bright day and you don't have gear to compensate like a ND or a neutral density filter, your ISO will probably be around the 100 to 400 range. However, if you're going indoors or shooting in lower light, you might need to bump it up quite a bit, but try to not max out your ISO at the highest because you will run into footage being grainy in post. Okay, so the last piece of the puzzle, or the trifecta of the triangle, your aperture or your f-stop. So your aperture controls how much light is coming into your lens, and it also affects your depth of field. So when we see all of the really pretty stuff on social media and the horse is really clear and this is really blurry, that has direct correlation with how low your f-stop is going. So for instance, some lenses max out at an f-stop of 4 and some go all the way down to a 1.8. However, you do have to remember that the higher your f-stop, so going over a 4, so to a 5.6, an 8 or higher, the darker your image is going to be. So for me personally, I always film at the lowest point of my f-stop, once again a 1.8, a 2.0 or a 2.8. So that way I am getting the effect that I want, letting in as much light as possible, and I'm not going to be playing around with the other settings as much. So once again, a quick recap. Your shutter speed should be at 1/240, your ISO as low as you can have it without being over or underexposed, and your aperture adjusted to the amount of light and depth of field that you're wanting to have. Once you master these settings, I promise you your footage will look immensely better, as well as achieve the look that you're wanting to have for your social media platforms. With that, thank you again for watching another tutorial. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe for more equine videography tips. If you have any questions, as always, leave me a comment. I'd be happy to answer, and I'll catch you in the next one.